everybody, and welcome to Cooking with the Kinsers, where we do cooking in real life. And sometimes we make things that work, and sometimes they don't. So we never know what's going to happen, but we will try and find out today. We also cook while things in real life are happening. So just like kids making bowls of cereal in the background, that's all part of it. So with that, we're going to get started on something that's really difficult, at least for me. I've never tried to do this before, but we're going to attempt it. And what could be better, especially early in the morning at 9 a.m. on a Monday, than a fresh baked Asiago bagel? Not just any bagel, we're going to do the real deal, the New York water style bagel. Everybody knows that it's all about the water, so we are going to attempt that today. With that, we've got all of our first ingredients. The first part of making a good bagel is to make what they call the sponge. The sponge is the first part that needs to happen before you can actually incorporate all of the other ingredients to make the dough. So with that, we've got 4 cups of flour. And to that, we are going to add 2.5 cups of water. Unfortunately, it's not New York water. And then we've got a teaspoon of yeast. And this is really what makes the sponge. So we're just going to stir all of this together. I prefer to use a wooden spoon. Not only do I prefer it, but that's what the directions say, so we're just going to go with it. And then once this is all mixed together, we're going to let this sit for about 2 hours. And I've turned the oven on just for a minute just to get it warm, because obviously when you're using yeast you want kind of a warm atmosphere. I could probably throw it in my garage if I wanted to, because it's warmer in there. But I like to just use the oven because it's a nice closed place for me to put it. And we're going to cover it in plastic wrap and let it sit in there for about 2 hours. We've got our ball here. All the ingredients should be mixed together pretty well. I'm going to shape this a little bit with my hands just to make a ball. And then we're going to cover it and put it in the oven. So we'll cover this in some plastic wrap. Pop this in the oven for about 2 hours, and then we will be right back with you. Okay, so now we have taken the sponge out of the oven, and as you can see, it's probably doubled in size. It's nice and bubbly, so we're ready for the next step. The next step is going to be to actually make the rest of the dough. So we're going to get out the KitchenAid at this point. We're going to pour all this sponge into, hopefully, I don't think it's pouring, but you know, we're gonna hopefully get this sticky mess into the KitchenAid bowl without making too much of a mess. And there we go, just about all of it there. This extra goo. In the KitchenAid. We're going to add our dough hook. And this will pretty much do most of the kneading that we need to do by itself. Plus it'll let us incorporate the rest of the ingredients. So with that on, hopefully it won't be too noisy, you'll still be able to hear me. Turn this on slow. And we're going to start to add the rest of the ingredients. So I've got some salt. I prefer the Himalayan salt. We've got a little bit more yeast. Just a little bit of brown sugar. And then we're going to start to incorporate some more flour. I'm going to add this slowly at first. Right now the dough hook isn't really doing anything, probably because I haven't put it up. So let's try that. That might actually work better. Amazing! much better results. So now we're going to add the rest of the flour. Right? And this is part of baking, making a big mess all over the place. I said I was going to do it slowly, right? I didn't do it slow enough. I do have the shield, but I'm too stupid to use it. So worst case, we'll add a little bit more flour if we need to. Okay, and here it's starting to have a little bit of trouble, which is a good thing. It means it's making a dough. Probably why bakers use white coats instead of black coats, because I'm going to end up cooking. And what we're going to do at this point is we're going to actually let this run for about 10 minutes, and then we'll be back in a little bit. Okay, so we are back. I believe our dough is about done now. It didn't quite take 10 minutes, but I think we're going to be in good shape. Besides kneading it here, we're going to also do a little bit of hand kneading. One thing I forgot to mention before is that the yeast that I'm using for this is instant yeast. I'm sure there's a way to do it with non-instant yeast. And I know one of the cool things about COVID, I guess you could say, is that it's really caused people to go back to basics and do a lot more cooking, a lot more baking. Read recently that King Arthur flour actually sold more flour in the last 2 months than they typically do in a full year. And it's been very hard to find yeast. We're very fortunate to find yeast at Restaurant Depot, which right now they're actually open to the public. You can go there and get a one-day pass. And they have a lot of supplies that we wouldn't normally be able to get in a lot of grocery stores. Obviously flour, and I'm also using King Arthur bread flour, which is probably one of the best flours that you can get for doing things like this, for making bread or any kind of bagels, or I made some sticky buns a couple weeks ago that came out really good. So we're gonna go ahead now that we've kneaded this a little bit. It's supposed to be nice and firm, shouldn't be sticky. And so at this point, I'm gonna try and get this into kind of a ball. And once we've got it into a ball, we're gonna divide this up into our bagels. And this is really when everything starts to get fun, hopefully. So what I'm gonna try and do, since this is supposed to be about a dozen bagels, is I'm gonna try and first divide this up into threes as evenly as possible, and then once we've got that, then we can divide them into half and then half again. That should give us a dozen. Math, So take about a third of that, another third, and this middle part still looks pretty big, so we're going to cut off a little bit of that. Here. Over here. I think we got probably close to a third. Each one. It'll feel fairly equal. And from here, we'll divide it to half. Again. And with any luck, we've got our soon-to-be bagel in a ball. So right now they're bagel balls. I'm gonna make these into balls. I'm gonna try and get them a little bit more evenly weighted, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so after kind of redoing the balls and making them more evenly shaped, put them in a pan and let them rest again for about another 20 minutes wrapped in plastic wrap. So this is the part that actually is the reason why I wanted to make bagels in the first place, because this is the fun part. This is the part where we actually get to make the bagels. So according to the instructions here, take a ball and poke our finger or our thumb right through the middle. And then it says to use your 2 index fingers and kind of stretch it out to make that hole. And then I guess once you got the hole, we're going to put it in a greased baking sheet. And then we will let them rest again for about another 3 hours. Or we can do it overnight. So basically, at this point, once we've got all of our bagels formed and put in the pan, the next time you see me, we're actually going to be live. So happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, and we will see you in the morning.